Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And we are traveling in today's program as we begin the month of December. And, of course, as you know, the COVID crisis is still with us. And so we kind of have to limit our traveling to the good old island of Taiwan and some of the outlying islands, okay? That's why it's kind of difficult to get reservations to go to, say, Penghu or Lanyu or Lüdao. But you might want to consider going to a place down in Pingdong there called Liuqiu. Maybe you've been there, maybe you haven't, but it's certainly got a lot to offer.
Well, I haven't personally been down there. I know you have, Tom, to Liuqiu. Sounds beautiful, but you're right. Some of the most beautiful places in Taiwan are packed with tourists who are stuck in the country. They can't get out, get on a plane, or do anything else. I'm sure it'll get better soon, but this looks like a wonderful little island. We're going to talk about what's there, what you might expect if you take a quick vacation down there. And of course, Tom, you can tell us about your experiences too.
Yeah, although it happened a long time ago, but I'll mention that in passing. As we begin our lesson, let's read the entire contents. Liuqiu Island, a paradise all year long. Let's listen. Liuqiu is a tiny island in Pingdong County. Its weather is pleasant all year round, so come and explore everything it has to offer. Black Devil Cave. Visit this cave for a tragic history lesson. In the 1600s, two Dutch trading ships crashed on the reefs near the island. The people who lived on the island killed the survivors, so the Dutch sent more ships and soldiers to punish them. Around 300 indigenous people were murdered in the cave. Flower Vase Rock. Located close to the main ferry terminal at Baisha Port, Flower Vase Rock is perfectly positioned to attract tourists. With a wide, round top and a thin, tapering base, its remarkable shape certainly draws attention. From some angles, it looks like a watchful guardian of the harbor. Zhong Ao Beach. This beach is close to Baisha Port, so it's a great place to start relaxing after taking the boat over from Donggang. During the day, it's a perfect spot to look at fish and crabs or play in the water. At night, the view of the city lights across the water brings a sense of peace. White Lighthouse. This iconic symbol of Liuqiu Island is not particularly tall, standing at only 11 meters. However, its location at the top of Mount Dongnangjian means that ships can see its beacon from over 35 kilometers away. The tower was built in 1929 by a group of local fishermen.
Okay, we're going to go take I guess it's an imaginary visit to Liuqiu for the next 2 days and talk about this paradise that is very close to the main island of Taiwan. Of course, Liuqiu is part of Taiwan. It's part of our country. And we're describing it here in the title as a paradise. A paradise is another word for heaven. So if someone says, oh, it's paradise here, you've got to come. You've got to come see this place. It's so lovely that it does feel like you died and you went to heaven. It's relaxing. It's beautiful. There are things to do. It does sound like a wonderful place to visit. I checked the temperatures of this little island earlier today, and it remains pretty warm all through the year. So if you're tired of it being cold in the winter, you might want to take a trip to Liuqiu.
Yeah, I went there in March or April a long time ago, and the weather was quite nice then. I do remember it was a cloudy day, and of course, if it rains, it makes things difficult, but still, it's a good place to go at any time of the year. Unlike Penghu, I think if you go to Penghu in the winter, it's pretty cold, and lots of people don't like to go there in the winter. But yeah, Liuqiu is a paradise all year long. When I went went there, it was called 小琉球, Little Liuqiu Island. And I think that's another nickname. I think you can call it either one. So, yeah, Liuqiu is a tiny island in Pingdong County. It's actually in the ocean there to the west of Pingdong County there. And its weather is pleasant all year round, so come and explore everything it has to offer. So here we've got the verb to explore. That just means to go someplace and travel around and learn more about the place. And of course, you can explore by moving around and looking at things, but you can also explore other things like the culture or museums or restaurants and stuff like that.
Sure, you could do a lot of exploring in a new area. It doesn't have to be a tourist area. It could just be, some neighborhood in your town that you've never really seen too much of. Sometimes I'll take a walk in an area I've never been in and just explore, see what kind of shops they have, what kind of restaurants are available. It's kind of fun. So one of the places that Liuqiu does offer is a place called Black Devil Cave. Kind of sounds a little spooky, a little scary. Well, let's talk about the history of this cave. It says, visit this cave for a tragic history lesson. When you see that word tragic, it usually refers to something that's very sad, and typically it refers to an incident or something in history that happened, or even currently, I guess, where someone has died. So let's take a look here. It was back in the 1600s, and if you've studied your history, guys, you know that Taiwan was ruled or taken over by the Dutch for a while, who ruled here. It was a long time ago. So in the 1600s, there were 2 Dutch trading ships that crashed on the reefs near the island. And as many of you already know, that island is made up of corals, dead coral. So it's kind of an organic island, you could say. If you talk about something crashing, it could be a car, it could be you on your bike, or maybe a skateboard. If you crash, it means you ran into something or bumped into something with a lot of force. And you can have a lot of destruction if 2 things crash together. Say 2 cars crash head on. Each of the front of the cars crash. That's usually a pretty bad car wreck. So these trading ships, they were going on the ocean trying to offer their goods in return for something else people, their destination had. And unfortunately, these 2 Dutch trading ships crashed on the reefs near the island. They probably didn't know the reefs were there. And reefs can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, so these Dutch people were probably bringing wooden shoes into Taiwan, and they were going to take some tea back
Flowers.
to Holland or whatever. So unfortunately, though, they did not know the water around Taiwan very well, so they crashed on these reefs, and the people who lived on the island killed the survivors. I guess they were afraid of them. Who are these strange people with light skin and red hair or whatever? We best not take our chances, so they killed the survivors. Well, the Dutch were not happy about that, so the Dutch sent more ships and soldiers to punish them. The Dutch probably thought, hey, we're not going to let you guys get away with that. We need to teach you a lesson. We need to set an example here, or make an example of you guys. So they killed quite a few people there. Around 300 indigenous people were murdered in the cave. And if you talk about something being indigenous, that means the people or the things that were there originally, okay? Especially the people. If you talk about indigenous people here in Taiwan, you're talking about the Yuanzhumin, basically, the aborigines of the various tribes, the Amis, the Atayal, the Puyuma, etc.
Right. What usually occurs if people are killed in a cave like that or murdered is that they probably were running to hide from other soldiers or these Dutch that had their weapons with them. And maybe there was no exit from that cave. And so they were trapped there, and that's how they got murdered. I'm just making this up. I don't know. But if you murder someone, it means you meant to kill someone. Sometimes people are accidentally killed. That's not murder. Murder means you had a plan to kill people, and you went and carried out that plan.
Okay, so they were murdered, and that seems to be an injustice there. So if you're into history, you could check out that cave. I don't remember going to that cave myself when I went there, but again, I went there many years ago. I think it was actually back in 1993. Which I hate to think about how long ago that was. But in any case, that's one particular attraction you might check out. Another place you could check out is Flower Vase Rock. Okay, so flower, of course, you know what that is. A vase is a porcelain container that you can put flowers in. Americans say vase. I think the British say vase.
Oh, no, it's people who are kind of snobbish.
All right.
It's not the British. People in America, you'll hear some people go, I need a vase, please.
Yeah, take these flowers and put them into a vase. But I'm not ashamed, so I say vase myself.
Yeah, most of us do.
So this rock here is, I guess, in the shape of a flower vase and located close to the main ferry terminal at Bai Sha Port. Flower Vase Rock is perfectly positioned to attract tourists. So, yeah, one way to get, of course, to Liuqiu, probably the only way, is to take a ferry. And, of course, they've got the ferry terminal. That's the dock there, or the wharf, or whatever, where the boats come in, and you get off the boat, and there you are. You're in Liuqiu. And the port there is Baisha Port, and that's where Flower Vase Rock is. It's perfectly positioned there to attract tourists. So, yeah, if you go to Liuqiu, you can't miss it.
I wanted to mention a ferry is that kind of boat or ship that its typical duty or its purpose is to take passengers and goods sometimes, transport passengers and goods from one place to another. It's usually a pretty short distance. In New York City, there's the island of Manhattan, and then there's another little portion of that area called Staten Island. And most of the people I know, at least, would take the ferry to work. So they didn't work in Staten Island. They would take that ferry across that short river there. And that's kind of fun to do, actually. So we're going to get back and talk more about Liuqiu. But first, guys, we're going to take a quick break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是 Patrick 老师。今天素养单元所介绍的是小琉球的观光景点。文章一开头，先介绍小琉球的地理位置。这座小岛位于屏东县。紧接着，文章告诉我们，当地的气候宜人，有许多值得探索的地方。在我们深入看每个景点介绍的段落有哪些单字、片语和常考句型值得注意之前，先一起看一下标题的 A Paradise All Year Long， 以及第一段的第二句 Its weather is pleasant all year round。前后两个 all year long 和 all year round 都表示一整年、一年到头，是很实用的时间副词片语。譬如高三要准备升大学，课业非常忙碌，一年到头都在念书。Students in the last year of high school in Taiwan have to study all year round。如果同学觉得从暑假开始冲刺到现在已经有点疲累，不妨趁着周末出外走走。或许可以到小琉球去散心、放松、充电一下。以下的景点介绍就是很好的指南。首先，乌鬼洞 Black Devil Cave 这个景点介绍的写作方式很值得学习。Visit this cave for a tragic history lesson。到乌鬼洞看看，了解一段历史悲剧。段落先以此句作为主题句开头，之后文章作者用3个句子精简的介绍这到底是什么悲剧，前因后果在最后2句交代清清楚楚。岛民杀害了船难的生还者，所以招来荷兰人报复。这里用了副词连接词 so， 所以连接2个表示因果关系的子句。The islanders killed the survivors, so the Dutch sent more ships and soldiers to take revenge。第二个景点花瓶石 Flower Vase Rock， 第一句的句型值得深入学习，这是分词构句，在英文书面语很常见。Located close to the main ferry terminal at Baisha Port, Flower Vase Rock is perfectly positioned to attract tourists。 什么是分词构句呢？现在或过去分词开头的子句。 从文意上判断和主要子句的主词是相同的。如果各位在英文作文运用分词构句写作，会让整篇文章看起来比较有句型变化，有助于提升英文作文得分。Located 是过去分词， be located 加上地方副词表示主词所在的位置。我们回头看第二段开头的分词构句 ，located 这个过去分词的主词到底是什么呢？就是后面主要子句的主词 flower, vase, rock。花瓶石地点靠近白沙港的渡轮码头。如果不以分词构句来写，应该是 Flower Vase Rock is located close to the main ferry terminal at Baisha Port。造分词构句的时候，可以把相同的主词 Flower Vase Rock 省略，但别忘了后面动词要改成原形，再加上 ing。第三人称现在是 be 动词 is 的原形是 be， 再加上 ing 变成 being。再省略 being， 所以只留下 located close to the main ferry terminal.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about the attractions or the tourist attractions. On Liuqiu Island, we talked about Black Devil Cave, which has a tragic history there. Lots of people were murdered there by the Dutch. And we also talked about Flower Vase Rock, and that, of course, is located close to the main ferry terminal at Baisha Port. So, yes, we did talk about what a ferry is, a boat that takes passengers and sometimes vehicles from one place to another. Like there's a ferry, I think, in Kaohsiung, the Qijing Island Ferry. There's also a ferry in Danshui there that goes across the river to Bali. And here we've got a ferry from Donggang out to Liuqiu.
I wanted to mention, guys, terminal is a word you'll often hear if you fly a lot. The arrival and departure buildings at airports are all called terminals. And also, if you pay close attention to the English on the MRT, sometimes you'll hear an announcement, and the voice will say, "This is the terminal station." Or this is the terminal stop. I think they say it's the terminal station, meaning it's the end of the line. You gotta get out there, unless you want to just sit in the MRT until it goes the opposite way. Anyway, that's terminal. So we've got Flower Vase Rock, which sounds beautiful. Why don't you go ahead and talk about the description of this pretty flower vase rock, Tom.
Okay, we'll talk about it. It does have a good description here with a wide round top and a thin tapering base. Its remarkable shape certainly draws attention. So yes, it has a very unique shape here. It's got a wide round top, and then its base is thin and it is tapering. So here tapering is from the verb to taper, which means of an object to be wide at one place and then thinner toward the top. A lot of candles are tapered where they're wider at the base and they're narrower at the top. And a lot of buildings taper as well. Like Burj Khalifa, I think, that building kind of tapers as it goes up toward the top. It's wider at the bottom and very thin at the top. It tapers. And I guess this rock tapers as well. This sounds like a very unique shape here.
You can also taper in the opposite way and start wide at the top and go narrow as you get closer to the bottom or the base of something. So yeah, it sounds like it's got a cool shape. From some angles, it looks like a watchful guardian of the harbor. Almost like somebody's standing there and protecting the harbor. That's what guardians do. Some people talk about having a guardian angel, an angel that looks out for them and keeps them safe if they're in kind of a dangerous situation. Moving on, we've got another place here called Zhong Ao Beach. Now, this beach is close to Baisha Port. So it's a great place to start relaxing after taking the boat over from Donggan. So this sounds like a great place. A lot of people enjoy the beach. I think just the sound of the waves in the ocean is very relaxing, at least to me. I don't necessarily want to go swimming. I don't like the salt water, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm not a beach person either.
No, but I do like my family will go on big family reunion vacations, and I like to take a book and a big sun umbrella, sit under that umbrella and watch the kids build sand castles, But yeah, a lot of people love to get out there in the water.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the place where they had that glass bottom boat.
Cool.
When I went there, we got on this boat and you could sit inside and see underneath the water there. Couldn't see very much, but it was still kind of an interesting ride. I don't know if they still have those there. But yeah, if you like a beach or if you like going to the beach, this might be the place for you. You can relax there. And during the day, it's a perfect spot to look at fish and crabs or play in the water. So yeah, take off your shoes and wade in the water there, maybe play frisbee or something. And at night, the view of the city lights across the water brings a sense of peace. So you can have some nighttime scenery there if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, so those are a couple of attractions we talked about so far. Here's another one, the White Lighthouse. Okay, lighthouse, of course, is a tall building with a light on top of it so ships can see where the land is and then they won't crash on the land.
Cool. I love lighthouses. I think they're so cool. Some of them are quite old, too. I have a friend who just likes to visit old lighthouses for historical reasons. She studies history. So this is a white lighthouse. It's described as being an iconic symbol of Liuqiu Island. If something's iconic, it just means it represents something, maybe a special time in history, or here, the iconic symbol is actually representing the whole island. Why is it iconic? Well, it's not particularly tall. It stands at only 11 meters. That is very, very short, actually, for a lighthouse. However, its location at the top of Mount Dongnangjian means that ships can see its beacon from over 35 kilometers away. So it still does its job. When you talk about a beacon, you're talking about a light. And a light that actually lets people know where to go. It's like a light that they can follow. My parents, for me, were a beacon growing up, meaning I would look to them for their example and follow after their example. So beacon can be a literal light or something that you can safely follow that'll keep you safe because of a good example or what have you. So it's iconic. Another iconic person is, I always think of Madonna as being iconic for, that period in the 80s and 90s, the rock songs, her dancing, everything kind of represented that period of time in American history.
Well, for me, Michael Jackson was quite iconic of the 80s, especially with his moon dance and stuff like that.
Loved his dancing, yeah.
Absolutely. And yes, Liuqiu has this lighthouse, which is kind of symbolic or iconic of Liuqiu. And yeah, there are lots of lighthouses all around Taiwan. I remember there being one on Xijing Island in Kaohsiung. Of course,
really?
Probably the most famous lighthouse in Taiwan is the one at Eluanbi, down there in Kending. So here, this is an iconic symbol of Liuqiu, but it's not really that tall. It's only 11 meters tall, but still, it's on the top of this mountain there, a mountain called Dongnangjian. I hope I said that right. And yes, you have to go up lots and lots of steps to get up there. So yeah, even though the lighthouse itself is not very tall, you're probably going to get a really nice view from up there.
Oh, yeah.
And you can take lots of pictures. And of course, because it is so high on top of that little mountain there, ships can see it from as far as 35 kilometers away. They can see that beacon of light flashing out over the ocean.
Yeah, a long time ago in the olden days, you could say, maybe they didn't have a lighthouse, but people would want to protect those ships and the fishermen out at the sea. So they would build a fire and let that fire guide the fishermen out there in their boat so they wouldn't crash or wreck, as we say. So yeah, this tower was built back in 1929. by a group of local fishermen. Makes sense that the fishermen want to protect their group of fishermen. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our explanation for today, but we've got some more stuff to talk about in our next program. Of course, today we talked about some of the attractions on Liuqiu. Yeah, like I said, I was there many years ago, and all I really remember was renting a scooter and riding around the island. It's not very big, so you can get around the island pretty quickly.
Oh, really?
But the land is kind of interesting. It's kind of dry there, and it looks quite different to Taiwan, so yes, it's probably worth going there just to feel like you've traveled someplace new and exciting. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
请特别注意 watchful 这个单字，老师想提醒大家，很常和这个字一起搭配出现的词语是 watchful eye。比方说 ，The teenage couple must stay in the living room under the watchful eye of the girl's father。这对青少年情侣必须待在客厅里，接受女孩父亲严密的监控。第三个景点是中澳 Beach， 中澳沙滩。这个段落的写作技巧也值得学习。同学不论是在写个人游记，或者叙述某个地方的特色，告诉读者白天与夜晚有何不同景致，是很棒的切入方式。这个段落分别用了两个句子。简要的点了出来。第一个是第二句 During the day, it's a perfect spot to look at fish and crabs， 交代白天可以赏鱼。第二个是最后一句 At night, the view of the city lights across the water brings a sense of peace， 交代在夜晚可以到中澳沙滩观赏对岸夜景，享受景观带来的宁静与祥和。最后一个景点是 White Lighthouse， 白灯塔。这个段落有一个句型，一个单字需要特别注意。我们先看句型，请注意到第一句 The iconic symbol is not particularly tall, standing at only 11 meters。 请注意逗点后的 standing， 这又是分词构句。如果有连接词连接两个子句，我们可以说 The iconic symbol is not particularly tall, and it stands at only 11 meters。但如果想要句子读起来更简洁，我们可以使用分词构句，前后子句所指称的主词相同，都是代表性的象征 iconic symbol， 所以在后面子句就省略了，但动词要跟着变化，是原形 stand 再加 ing 变成 standing。再来看单字，第二句画底线的 beacon 灯塔照射出的灯光信号，请注意 beacon 常见的词语搭配 beacon of hope， 在苦难挑战当中安抚人心的希望之光。今天讲解到此结束，我们下次再会。
That brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.